this out. Okay, so hopefully this works. I tried the Google Hangout, but I wasn't able to chat with y'all, and that's kind of the whole point of doing this. So now we're going to try this live streaming thing. I honestly have no idea what I'm doing. I am not technology gifted, not very good at technology. So I'm so happy to see you guys here. Please let me know if you can hear me. The YouTube is a little behind the live feed, so y'all just keep me in touch and let me know if it's going well, because I have to mute the computer and kind of hide and see y'all. But I do see your chat, and that makes me very, very, very happy. Hey, everybody. Okay, so we need more volume. I can do that, I think. We shall see. Like I said, I'm figuring this out on the fly. So y'all let me know if it's good, not good. And I promise you that when we do this next week, it'll be much, much better. So just a few things. Did all of y'all get to see the passage and the questions? It is on my website, blessherhealth.com. I posted a picture, so hopefully y'all can see it very clearly. I was hoping to do this on my phone and then I could show you the passage better, but the computer is not as great. So we will see how that'll work. So for just a few things, at the end of this, we are going to have to make a couple decisions. If you guys like this, if you want to do it again, let me know. If you do want to do it again, what day works best for you? What time works best for you? Do you want to do one passage? Do you want to do two passages? Do you want to do it once a week? Do you want to do it twice a week? I'm going to let y'all tell me what works best for you, because I love cars. Cars is my happy place in the MCAT. I get excited when that section comes up because I can do it really well. I am type A, type awesome. So if I can do a section really well, I really like it. So cars is my happy place. And I am so happy to share any tips or techniques or anything that I can help y'all with. And to help y'all to be better at cars. And then y'all can get 130 and 131s and 132s on your car section, and hopefully I can get my chemical section up, because that's my weakness. So happy y'all are here. Yay! I'm gonna try to keep this video short, but because it's the first time and we're figuring it out, we'll have to see. So, I have not read the passage yet. So I shared the passage and the questions yesterday, and it came from the McGraw-Hill Behavioral Social Sciences and Critical Analysis book. I honestly chose this at random, and I thought that it was probably one that a lot of people didn't have. I plan to do passages, if we continue this moving forward, I plan to do passages from cars, from next steps, from exam crackers, from, I want to get the Xology. Yes, Xology. I want to get their critical cars book and do passages from there. So the AAMC, I bought the packs of the test exams and the question packs. So hopefully a couple passages from there. And I want to get a wide array of passages from everywhere, so that we can get it kind of a taste of a little bit of everything. All right. Y'all still hearing me? There's not a lot of chatting going on, so I'm getting nervous. All right. Yes, AAMC, that they created the MCAT, so we definitely want to make sure that we are getting those, because as much as I love Next Steps and exam crackers and all the materials out there, nothing gets better than AAMC. It just doesn't. They create the exam. So, has everybody seen the passage or has gotten the passage from the website? Because I don't know that I can do it. Yeah. Yeah. I swear, exam crackers, the only problem I have with them is they're kind of all over the place. Like, I did their entire 101 book when I studied for my first two MCATs. And I swear, there were passages I was getting 100%, and then there were passages that I was getting like 1 out of 6 right. So their passages are all over the place. Which, I mean, that's kind of like the MCAT. There are some passages you're just going to nail, and then some passages that you're going to be like, what are you even talking about? Yes. Which, speaking of that, I got this question on the cars video I did, and I wanted to share this with you, because this was a huge point grabber for me, and I'm going to do a video. I'm probably going to record it tonight, and then hopefully post it tomorrow. On troubleshooting cars. So if you're getting these questions wrong, here's how to fix it. If you're doing this wrong, here's how to fix it. Basically, if you're doing this, here's how to fix it video. Like troubleshooting like you would fix your computer. So I plan on recording that tonight with all the different scenarios and how to fix them. And then the other thing, but I wanted to just say this really quickly. If you get a cars passage that is insanely difficult. I mean, you're reading it and you're like, this is a foreign language. I have no idea what these people are even talking about. It's way over your head. It's using a lot of jargon. It's just, I mean, like reading a computer manual. You're like, I have no idea what this is even about. I had a hard time with those. I used to read them and reread them and reread them and reread them and waste all my time on it. Yes. And here's the deal. I figured this out, and ever since I figured this out, I've gotten so many points to these passages, and it's gotten to the point that I love these passages, and I get excited when I see them, because here's the deal. You are not supposed to have outside knowledge for cars, and I know that you've heard this before. Cars has no outside knowledge, don't apply outside knowledge, you're not supposed to have any. But really let that sink in. You are not supposed to understand things from outside knowledge. So if it's a passage where it's over your head and it makes no sense, it's not supposed to make sense. It's put there for that reason, is to trip you up and make you read it and lose your confidence and to shake you. And I guarantee you that any question you have on that passage are going to be your easiest questions of the whole entire section, because they are going to ask you very superficial things because the passage is so difficult. So you're going to get questions about what does this word mean in this context, the definition questions. You're going to get questions about if the author is informative or angry, which is probably informative if it's way over your head. You are going to get questions that are answered explicitly in the passage. And if the passage puts these big words out there and they don't give you a definition, you're not supposed to know them. Ignore them. Move on. Just skip it. If they give you a word and they say this means blah, 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 you are going to get a question on that because they are defining that for you and you should pay attention. So I highlight definitions. But I live for these passages now, because once you let it sink in, I don't understand this. I'm not supposed to understand this. This was done on purpose, and I am only supposed to read it to the best of my knowledge, and then the questions are going to be superficial. You will get so many points on those. And I just wanted to tell that because somebody asked me that, and they've actually responded back that they've gained points now that they've realized that. So If you go into a passage and it's literally like a foreign language, breathe. This is your points. These are your freebies because your questions are going to be very superficial. And hopefully I'll have an example of that. I don't even know what this passage is about because I haven't read it yet. I'm going to literally read it with you guys online today. And tell you what I paid attention to in each paragraph. I have not looked at this passage. I have not looked at the questions. I did have to put a sticky note because they put the answer right underneath the questions, which I hate when they do that. So I don't know if this is one of those, but I wanted to put that out there. If it's really, really hard, just breathe. Read it to your best of your ability. Get out of it whatever you can. If there's a definition, if there's a tone that you're sensing, just get a gut feeling for it. Don't overthink it. Just read it and get a gut feeling for it, and then go to your questions. And most likely there are going to be questions where it's going to have you look up something. So like if it says in paragraph 5, the word whatever means blah, 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 then you better go in paragraph 5 and go see what that word is. That's a problem I have too, is I don't ever go back in the passage. And I worked on that, thankfully. But if it says a specific location, go to that location, reread that sentence, and then answer to the best of your ability. And you will be surprised how many points you will get, because these are put there to shake your confidence and to stress you out. Don't let it stress you out. You conquer the MCAT. Don't let the MCAT conquer you. So... yes, D-Lane. Exam crackers does that to me too. Okay, so you should not just move to the questions. You should still read the passage, but get your gut feeling for it and then go to the questions. This is a passage that you should be very quick for. Relying on memory, not a good idea. I do that too. And it's because I get like in a rush and I want to hurry through the passages so I don't go back. I go back in the passage if I have to, but I don't go back in the passage every question. And I will go through that. And if you go back every question, that is going to be a big time sucker for you. So you need to make sure that you only go back if you absolutely need to. Okay, so does everybody have the passage? I feel like a teacher teaching class. This is so much fun. Does everybody have the passage, or do I need to do the screen on it? I can't even move left or right. I'm that pitiful. Does everybody have this? Okay, if you don't have it, just pause the picture. I don't know if you can pause. Never mind, it's live. Screenshot it or something. Okay, got the passage open onto the window. Yay! Okay, good. I was planning on reading this right beforehand, but then we were having all those technical difficulties. So, I always highlight any names, terms, dates, locations, anything that a question's going to ask you about. So I have muralism, Mexican tradition, Aztecs, anything that's capitalized, highlight. That's my rule of thumb. If they capitalize it, highlight, because they're going to ask you about it and you're going to have to come back to it. So the people's names are definitely important. So I know this is probably time consuming, but you develop these habits, and this is why I wanted to do this too, because doing cars passages has become such a habit and routine for me that it's hard for me to explain what I do outside of actually doing it because I don't think through all the steps when I'm doing it. But when I'm reading, I like to summarize each paragraph, and I don't write it down. It's not like a long, detailed kind of thing. It's just a couple words, phrases in my mind. And I also kind of like to predict where the passage is going to go. So like the first passage was very, very short. Muralism has a long tradition, so dating back to the Aztecs. And, obviously it's a Mexican tradition. They gave the 3 names of guys that do it. They're all Mexicans. It says that political art. I would probably highlight that. So, are we going to talk about political art? Are we going to talk about one specific artist? Are we going to talk about the tradition of it and how it developed and the history of it? So, just is this going to be a history passage? Is this going to be a biographical passage? Is it going to be a political passage? Just kind of seeing the different ways that it could possibly go. And the way the author takes it will help show the author's tone. Historical, biographical, those will all show a different tone. And so that's kind of where you're going. I actually do. When I first started, I would write out to the side a couple words. And it would be something like, I don't know, for that one, I put muralism, Mexican, an artist. Or if there's a tone, angry. If there's, very tons of facts, I put informational. If it was really flattering, I'd put that. So I kind of put a tone or a summary of what it is, and I'd just write it out to the side of the paragraph. And then at the end of the passage, I would give a main idea for the main thing. And it does. It's going to take a little bit of time. When you first start, and you're finding your technique, and just because this technique works for me doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. You got to find your own technique. But it is going to take more time in the beginning when you're kind of establishing this. And that's okay, side note. This video is going to be a lot longer than I planned on it. When you are doing these, I've said this analogy to 2 different people now, and it's not the greatest analogy. I kind of made it up on the spot, so I'm sorry for that. But doing cars is like parallel parking. Okay, so you're not going to say, I'm going to try to parallel park in 30 seconds flat if you've never parallel parked before in your life, because you can't parallel park. So how are you going to parallel park in 30 seconds? First, you're going to figure out what parallel parking is. You're going to figure out the steps to do it. You're going to practice those steps. You're going to practice your parallel parking to get into that space. And the better you get at parallel parking, then you start working on speeding up your time. So that's how I approach cars. You need to get used to cars passages. You need to try out different techniques, figure out what works best for you. And then once you have that technique down and you're doing it, or you're getting questions right, and you're getting questions right, and you're getting questions right, then you're going to start timing yourself. And you should start, timing just to see how long a passage takes you. I don't know if y'all have seen this, but I don't do a lot of full-length practice tests because I have little kids running around, so I don't have a lot of time for it. But when I did cars, I would start out doing a passage and hitting the stopwatch function on my phone and seeing how long it took me. And then I would challenge myself. Okay, well, I'm going to do this passage. That passage took me 12 minutes, so I'm going to do this passage in 11. Okay, now I'm doing 11 and I'm getting them right. The thing is, too, if you're doing it quick and you're getting them wrong, that's worthless. So you want to be getting questions right, and you want to be working on your time. But you need to get your technique and get the questions right first before you start worrying about time. Because it doesn't do you any good to rush through the car section and get everything wrong. So I hope that helps. Exactly. Yes, I do. That's kind of my summary. So if my summary is 3 to 5 words, one is going to be what it's about, which that's muralism. The second one is going to be the tone of it. That is, that first paragraph, there's only 2 sentences, so it's kind of hard to say. But I do think that's a positive tone. It's talking about, a tradition is such a positive word. We have a tradition of wearing white to weddings, a bride wearing white. You don't say a tradition for killing people. And then, they're talking about made the careers of these 3 people. So these 3 people became successful because of this tradition. So that's all positive words in the first paragraph. It's 2 sentences, but you've got a topic, you've got people, you've got positivity. And so you're kind of putting a lot of that together and getting I mean, it's like a puzzle. The passage is a puzzle. You're getting piece by piece by piece until you get the big picture. And the big picture is where most of your questions are going to be. So you need to kind of put that together. And if it takes a little bit of time in the beginning, that's okay. You need to get your technique, get the questions right, and then work on your timing, because timing should be the least of your worries. I would rather do, what is it? I think it's still 7 passages. It might be 9 passages now in this section. I'm too tired to think, but so if I only do 7 out of 9 passages, but I get every question right on those 7, I'd rather do that than do all 9 passages with 10 minutes left and get barely any questions right. I mean, it really doesn't do you any good. So you need to be getting stuff right before you're working on your time. So let's get back to reading. So yeah, that's what my first one looks like. I just highlighted the main words. And I have, like I said, I have in my brain like positive words, where could it be going, things like that. So the very first word is talking about an artist in the next paragraph, where he was born. So now we're getting biographical. Can't talk today. Biographical. I want to say biological, but that's because I was doing biology earlier today. So it's about his life, where he was born, where he studied art. He is very political. He did a strike as a teenager. Revolutionary. Okay, so there's my second paragraph. I actually highlighted more than I usually do because I wanted to point some things out. So we're talking about a particular artist. How much do I spend on reading? I'm usually a really quick reader. Obviously not today because I'm doing it live. But as much as I'm a quick reader, I prefer spending more time on reading than the questions. Because again, if you're not really understanding the passage, and if you skim the passage really quickly, then you need to spend more time on questions. You're going to have to look back up stuff in the passage, which that might be a technique that works for y'all. So don't knock it till you try it. I prefer to spend more time really reading and understanding the passage and piecing it together, so that when I know the questions, I can be like boom, 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 based on what I've read. So I spend more time on reading than on the questions. I don't really time the reading and then time the questions. I just time the time it takes for me to do an entire passage. And right now I'm at about 8 to 9 minutes a passage, I think. I'm not very quick on passages right now just because I'm a little rusty. So I'm working on it. But I'm getting questions right, so I'm happy with that. So second paragraph, we're talking about one of the artists, not the best known one. So he wants us to know, because the first paragraph was talking about someone the best known as Diego, but we're not talking about Diego. So he wants us to know about a lesser known person. He's telling us about his life. He's very revolutionary. He says he worked to unseat the dictator, getting the rank of captain. This whole paragraph to me is very flattering and very, very, very positive. This guy really idolizes this person or admires this person. I can get that from his activism. He unseated the dictator. He studied art from an early age. I mean, if you don't like someone, you don't care what they did as a child. He created some of his finest artworks on canvas in jail. It's just very flattering. And it says, he's a soldier artist. Some considered him a dangerous, subversive gangster. So obviously he's not in that boat, the author, because he's just very flatteringly talking about this person. So I'm just getting a feel for the author right now, and he the he talked about this as an artist, but he's talking more about the political aspect of his career and his life. He's talking about his tactical knowledge, his student strike. He unset a dictator. He's a rank of captain. He was anti-fascist forces. He was soldier artist. I mean, there's not much in there about his art. It's more about his political um, things that he did. So that's what I would put as my summary. I would put that we're talking about, I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name, but David. We're talking about David, biographical, mostly military, political activist, flattery, admires, I might put author admires him. That's kind of what I'd put for that. I also like the last sentence that some considered him a dangerous subversive gangster. I have a feeling that might be a question later because the author is putting out there that people disagree with him. So I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like that could potentially be a question. That's something that I'd put in the back of my head. Okay, so the author is pro David, but some people are against David because he had lengthy jail terms and people think he's dangerous. Yeah. Any tips for staying focused during the passage? I find some topics so incredibly boring. Oh my god, economics is the worst for me. I can't do it. I'm terrible at it. Best way to stay focused is literally take it one paragraph at a time and don't worry about the whole thing or the detail. And like I said, usually economics and stuff like that, that's got a lot of jargon. It's boring and it's over your head. So just skim through it. If it's a harder topic for you, skim through it. You can always look stuff up in the questions. Yeah, it's those are not fun at all. I can't do economics. I'm horrible. Ask my husband. I'm terrible at it. So yeah, I mean, it sucks. It really does. And it's really hard to stay focused and it's not fun. But it is 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes of your life towards you becoming a doctor. I mean, really. Those 10 minutes of reading that really boring passage is going to help you save someone's life. So buckle down and do it. I mean, it's worth it, right? You wouldn't be here if you didn't want to be a doctor. So just push through. Trust me, I understand. I hate economics. Hate it. Okay. Yay. All right. Third paragraph. He's switching to a different artist. So we're probably going to get some comparison. We're going to get some contrast. He's going... I noticed you named off a couple different things about this paragraph. Mine aren't very long. I mean, I put it all in my head at this point, but I would usually write 3 to 5 sentences. So for the second paragraph, I would write the David dude's name. I would write activist. I would write author admires him. Admiration is probably, I just put admiration, and I'd probably put an A for author. Name, activist, admiration. And then I'd highlight the last sentence and point an arrow to it. Just recognizing that there's a contrast there. That other people think he's dangerous. Because I just have a feeling. They like contrast and comparison, if y'all can't tell. And you kind of get, when you've done this a long time, and I mean, this is the good thing about cards. The more you practice it, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And the more you do it, you can start predicting what the questions are going to be. And you can start predicting what the answers are going to be. And you start getting into the pattern, because the MCAT is a pattern. I don't know if you guys realize this, but they have to write all these MCAT exams for us to take. I mean, how many dates are there a year? And there's a different exam every day. And on top of it, these books have to write passage after passage after passage. So there is a template. There is a template. There's an MCAT template. There is a template for passages and there's a template for questions. And of course, they don't give away all the answers. But if you can figure out that template, you're going to do so well. And I'm going to try to help y'all do that because again, some of it's second nature, but I'm going to really help you because there are questions where I see an answer and I can automatically eliminate it because I know that's not an MCAT answer. And it's things like when they use terms like always, never. Those are never, ever, 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 ever MCAT question answers, because they're too broad. You can never say always, never. You just can't. I mean, and MCAT loves that. They put an answer that looks so right, but it has the word always or never in it, and it just eliminate, mark it out. If it says always, never, mark it out. So it's things like that where you start getting a feel and you figure out what the MCAT questions are asking you and what their answers are, and like that, I can start. I know that sentence might be important, and it might not. They might not ask a question, but I feel like it could be. I know that the third passage that we're about to read is talking about a different artist. So now we got a comparison and contrast situation where it can ask you a question about David, and it's going to mix them up too. They could do questions like that where it says that David, or who's the next one? Jose. So we could say, well, Jose created his finest artworks in jail. Well, no, we know that's David. So it's little things like that where you're in a rush and you're stressed and the adrenaline's pumping, and so you read it and it's in your memory and you mix them up. That's stuff the MCAT loves. I get so excited when I figure this stuff out. And y'all will too, because y'all will be awesome at this. Okay, so the third one, we got studied art as a youth. So that's similar to David, who did it at a young age. He was inspired by the revolution. But the other guy was already in the revolution. So I'm already comparing and contrast. So the other guy was part of the revolution. This guy was inspired by it. One of his famous murals depicts the Holy Trinity as a worker, soldier, and pheasant. And then he turned his focus on the humanizing effect of large cities on people who live there. So he is anti-large cities. And he also did political cartoons. So that's interesting. So, again, very short paragraph. This talks more about his art, if you've noticed that. So the first guy, they talked about his military career. They talked about unseating the dictator. They talked about him being in jail and all his military. He was a rank of captain. The second guy, we talked about his most famous mural of the Holy Trinity. We talked about the topic of his artwork, and we talked about political cartoons. So the second guy, we're more focused on his art, if you notice that. Third guy, here we go. We got all three now. Okay. The author calls them Mexican social realists, which he puts the Spanish word for. Remains the most famous through sheer force of personality. Okay, so right there, I figured out that the author says that he's only famous because of his personality out of the three. So I think he likes the first guy better than the third guy. That's my personal opinion based on the way that he talked about it. He's most famous through sheer force of personality. His storytelling, his love affairs, his radicalism, and his love-hate relationship with the land of his birth informed his life and his paintings. So we're talking about his artwork, and we're talking about his personal life affecting his artwork. And then he incorporated folklore, cultural icons into his murals. Okay, so the thing I like about this last sentence, he talked about folklore and icons into his murals in an effort to educate working people in their own history. So I just have like a tingly sense, like Spider-Man when it comes to senses like this. So in an effort. So he tried. That doesn't mean he was successful. And it's also kind of making him pretentious in a way because he's trying to educate the working people. He's trying to educate the working people in just not education, in their own history. So he is trying to teach lower class about themselves. That's kind of the feeling I got from that sense. So my paragraph summary for that would be personality, pretentious, author, not a fan. That's the feeling that I get from that paragraph. And I mean, some of this is gut feeling, but some of it is the wording, and it's kind of hard to explain. You know, if he had liked him, if he was more flattery towards him, like he was the first guy, he could have said that he was famous for his artwork and his personality, that his artwork shared the history of the working people. He could have phrased all these in a different way, but the sheer force of personality, um, educate in their own history, it just sounds very negative to me. So that's the feeling I'm getting from that. I don't know if y'all are getting the same feeling. Let me know. Are y'all getting some tone in here? That's my favorite thing to look for because the MCAT loves tone. Loves it, loves it, loves it, loves it. So, we are going. Yay. All right. Y'all have probably fallen asleep on me now. All right, cheek neighborhood, southwestern. Okay, so now we're going to the United States. Ah, well, I'm glad that you picked up on it now. And again, I have no idea because I haven't looked at these questions. I literally took a picture and then posted it. So, y'all are awake. Good. So, I don't know what the questions are, but these are the things that I'm thinking as I'm doing the passage. I'm trying to pick up on feelings. I'm trying to pick up on what the passage is saying underneath the passage, because you have the superficial of the passage, which is why the really difficult to read passages have the easiest questions, because you're not going to understand the underneath of it if you can't even understand the superficial. So the superficial passages, the really difficult ones, are going to have superficial questions, and they're going to be your easiest questions. The passages where it's really easy to read in an almost leisurely way, those are the ones that are going to have the hardest questions, and those are the ones that you need to look below the passage. What is the tone? What is the feeling you're getting? What is it talking about? Is it educating you? Is it persuading you? Like advertisements are sneaky with their persuasion of our product's the best. Are you at getting to the end of passage and have changed your feelings on something? Has it scared you? You know, how does it make you feel? What's underneath it? Yay! I'm glad that this is helping y'all. Will you get better? Yes, you will get better on picking up on these things. And that's the thing. The more you do these passages, the better you're going to get at picking up on these things. Oh, my legs are killing me. Sorry, I did a leg workout today. So the more that you do this, the easier it's going to be, and the more you're going to pick up on them. And it's going to become second nature. And that's why I'm so glad that I did this workshop, because it's so second nature for me. That's hard for me to explain without actively doing it, which is why I wanted to do this, because I wanted to actively do a passage with y'all so that I can talk through the thoughts in my head. So, I'm glad that this is helping y'all. I am so happy. This is exactly what I wanted. So, all right. First thing I noticed in this next paragraph is he's totally switching pages, like completely. He talked about 3 artists, and now all of a sudden we're talking about the United States. Yes. So he had mentioned that he was the best known of them all, and he saved him for last. So you're right. He did reference that in the first passage. So if something is referenced in multiple paragraphs, pay attention. That's a great point. Thank you for saying that. That is definitely something to pay attention to. The more paragraphs that it's posted, like if you have a 8-paragraph thing and it only mentions carbon dioxide in one of the paragraphs, then it's not going to be as important as if it mentioned oxygen in 6 of them. So notice where there's intertwining of the paragraphs. Okay, so now all of a sudden we're in the United States. So I'm noticing a shift, and that kind of has me perking my ears up to figure out why we're shifting. Where are we going with this? My lighting is terrible. Sorry, guys. Where is he going with it, basically? So this is when I'm paying attention. The first 4 paragraphs, okay, that's good information. Now I'm paying attention, because why did you give us all that info just to turn around and switch gears on us? So we got neighborhoods in the United States. We have political muralism still explodes on the bare walls in the form of graffiti. So now we're switching to graffiti. I'm going to highlight Edward Seymour's name and the year. He invented the canned spray paint. Would be artist with an easy mode of expression, and graffiti mural took off as an art form in the 60s and 70s. And it was an outlaw art. So I'm highlighting that. Okay, so here, he's referencing the first guy. So I drew an arrow back to that paragraph about the guy. So now we're comparing graffiti outlaw art to the first guy, who was an outlaw that would have surely have appealed to him. So if the author liked the first guy, and this is something the first guy would have liked, the author likes it. So we're kind of doing a correlation thing. Yay, psychology and statistics. Which surely would have appealed to him. Despite their formal training, some members managed to create something beautiful, making political statements about poverty, injustice, diversity, and racism. So we're creating something beautiful. That's another tone. He likes graffiti. He thinks it's beautiful. I, on the other hand, would look at graffiti and be like, no. But he's describing graffiti as something beautiful. So that is a very, 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 very positive. Go ahead and go to the next one. Extraordinary thing about this kind of public art. It's truly for everyone. Again, more positivity. Okay, so that, what paragraph is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Paragraph 6. That is a really strange paragraph. I'm making note of that because there's no facts in it. The other paragraphs, even the first one, we have Mexican tradition, Aztecs, we have names. We got names, dates, we have what they did, who invented the spray can. Exactly. So he gave us the Mexican tradition. Here's his favorite 3 artists. Here's the differences between them. Graffiti was invented, which is similar, and the first guy would like it, and now all of a sudden this paragraph is more emotional, not factual. It's extraordinary. It says it's extraordinary, it's public art, it's truly for everyone. So this is propaganda. This is the persuasion. This is where the graffiti is good. Graffiti is a positive thing. It came from this tradition. It's not just kids spraying paint to deface public property. It's a tradition. These political artists used it to get rid of this evil dictator, and they use these art forms to, make Mexico a better place. And now we have it in America, and it's this beautiful, extraordinary thing that everyone can enjoy and love. So this is where it's starting to get less informational and more emotional and persuasion. That's what I'm getting from this paragraph, because there's nothing factual in it. It's just simply, it's eliciting memories. You can bounce your ball off of it on a basketball court. You don't have to go into a hall. It's on the walls of your school or your health clinic. He's reaching out to you. He's speaking to you. The other ones, he's just telling you about stuff. But here, he's actually speaking to you. So now I'm thinking this is a persuasion or propaganda for graffiti. That's kind of the main idea that I'm getting right now. Because, it's talking about, you cover it with posters of your favorite band, your lost pet. He's appealing to your emotions. We've all, lost a pet or had a band or played basketball. We've all done these things. So he's talking to us specifically and trying to elicit emotion from us to connect with this graffiti thing. Many graffiti artists are nuisances. The art is erased. Graffiti would prove... Okay, so here's the negative that people didn't like or misunderstood. That's the thing I'm getting from that sentence. They were called nuisances, and their art was erased. So they were misunderstood. Graffiti was misunderstood. But graffiti would prove a launching point into the world of fine art. Okay, well, now he's attributing graffiti to launching fine art. Today, modern murals, and so then we got some cities. Among others, attest to the power. I'm using some positive, strong words there. Mexican tradition of the murals as a purveyor of political thought. Okay. Yeah. So that last paragraph, I feel like he's saying, okay, you might have misunderstood graffiti people or even disliked them, but they really are a benefit to us because they created fine art, they launched it, and now all this murals and all over the world, and that it's the Mexican tradition and it's political thought. So he's very, very positive graffiti, very persuasive. I feel like he gave us the background of famous muralist in Mexico. He gave us the background of it being a tradition. He gave us the background of these famous people who did it and who changed Mexico and the world by doing it in a positive way, and who may have been misunderstood, like the first guy. He was in jail a lot. People thought he was a bad guy. See, I knew that sense would come back. So he was very misunderstood, but he did amazing things for Mexico. Then we go to, here's how graffiti started. Here's when it was invented. Yay, graffiti. And then we get the emotional appeal to us. You play basketball, your favorite band, your lost pet. It's for everyone. It's extraordinary. It's beautiful. And then the benefits of it, it has launched fine art, and it has the power of the Mexican tradition. So I feel like this is a very persuasive. I wouldn't have said that in the beginning. And that's why you kind of need a little bit of all of it. I think it's a very persuasive passage about graffiti. And I wouldn't have said that in the first paragraph because the first paragraph had nothing to do with graffiti. Or so I thought. That would be my main idea for it, is persuasion, graffiti, political, beautiful, for everyone. And traditional, because I feel like he plays on that tradition a lot. And the reason that he does that is because graffiti is typically considered which you're not supposed to use outside knowledge, but what I'm saying is like, not outside knowledge, but elicitive feeling. Usually when you see graffiti, the initial feeling is destruction of property, rebellious teenagers. So it has this negative feeling towards it. So he is showing you it's a tradition, it's beautiful, it's powerful, it can lead to change. So he's trying to persuade you to let go of the negative association we have with it and put a positive one on it. So I don't know, is that what y'all got as the main idea of the passage? That is what I got from it. I would like to hear what y'all think. Yay! If y'all are still awake. All right. I'm glad this is helping. Yes. It's a process. That's what I'm trying. Okay, so we're parallel parking. So we are pulling forward, looking at what the passage is about, getting the tone, getting the feeling. We're backing up. We're getting into the space. So we're taking the steps, working through it, and then summarizing. Yes, Victoria. The evolution of mural art. Yes, I used to always write out the main idea, and I do believe you should. Yes, main idea is a lot of questions. So it's very, very important that you get the main idea. Oh, I'm so glad I helped. That makes me feel so happy. So yes, so what I would do is I would do a couple word phrases for each paragraph, kind of summarizing tone, what I think it's about, and then at the end I would do a main idea. And in this, you want for a main idea, you want a summary of what it's about. You want the tone and you want the purpose. So the purpose for this paragraph would be persuasive. If it was just factual, I wouldn't have said that. I would have said informative. If it didn't have paragraph, okay, paragraph 6. If paragraph 6 was not in this, I would say it was informative because he's giving dates, he's giving names, he's talking to you about these people, specific people. He's talking about the invention of the spray can paint. He's talking about all these different things. Paragraph 6, where he talks about is truly for everyone. You bounce it off the basketball court. You cover it with posters of your favorite band, where he's talking to you and listening and an emotional response that's positive towards graffiti. That's where I'm getting persuasion. Because to persuade somebody, you need to give them facts, and then you need to elicit the emotional response. So that is where the persuasion's coming in. And that might be a question, it might not. So that is, I would put persuasion is the purpose of it. The tone is very, 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 very positive. Graffiti and mural. Everything in this is positive except for the famous dude that he doesn't really like. Yes, you need to be actively reading. So yes, so doing like what I kind of did of trying to predict where it's going, trying to get the feelings out of it. You need to get underneath the passage. You really dig into it. Okay, yes, so you want summary, main idea, tone, and purpose. So the purpose for this is persuasion. And apparently I can't spell, which is facts plus emotional plea. The tone is, I would say, admiration. He admires the Sequiros guy. I really can't spell that. Murals, graffiti, but not the famous dude. He was not a big fan of him. And then, so for the summary main idea, I would say that graffiti evolved from Mexican tradition of muralism. And is a beautiful and politically powerful art form. Okay. There is misspelling all over that, so I'm sorry about that. I am trying to, I can't really see that chat box very well. So that was what I would say about it, is persuasion, admiration, and its graffiti came from Mexican tradition muralism, which is powerful politically, which he has examples of, and is a beautiful art form according to the author. That is where my brain is at the end of that passage. And usually your main idea, if your main idea has a purpose, a tone, and the summary main idea of it, you're going to be able to answer most of the questions with that. And you're not going to need to go back into the passage unless it says in paragraph 5, what does this mean? Then I go into the passage. But usually I can use those 3 things to answer the questions, because like with tone, with admiration, I might be able to cancel out answers that don't align with that. It's set for Rivera because that is an outliner. Or the fact that it's persuasion. If there's answers that are not persuasion, then I can eliminate them. Okay, so now we get to do the fun questions part. Yay! Oh my goodness, we're at an hour. I'm so sorry, you guys. I did not mean for it to be this long, but it's the first one and we're doing it, and I think it's going well. So hopefully we can keep chugging along. All right, y'all have the questions too? I hope so. I am so happy that this is helping. Okay, so for the first question, in the context of the passage, the word radicalism means. Yay. Okay, so that, because it's context of the passage, it doesn't have a specific spot. It doesn't say paragraph 2, line 5. It just says in the entire passage the word radicalism means. However, I probably would look that up because it's a specific word. Just be on the safe side. If, which I don't even, that's not a word that, actually, is it a word that I read? It is not one that I highlighted. So that's going to be pain in the butt to find because it doesn't tell you where it is. That is annoying. I already don't like the first question. Okay, here we go. That's right. All right, it's talking about Rivera. Yay, his favorite. Okay, so I'm noting that it's the Rivera Passage, which is kind of good that I looked it up then. And it's talking about how his work is storytelling, his love affairs, his radicalism, and his love-hate relationship with the land of his birth informed his life and his paintings. So, in that passage, let's go ahead and get rid of stuff. So, intolerance, I would eliminate that. I don't think that has anything to do with intolerance. It's talking about his personality is so great that he's famous for it. Yes, thank you guys. Y'all are so go about finding. I just literally just scanned his passage until I found it. I don't really have a technique for that, which that makes me mad because that was a time killer. I don't think the MCAT would do that to us though. I think it would tell us exactly where it is. I think that's a McGraw-Hill aggravation. Okay, so intolerance, no, there's nothing intolerant about him. He's very loving, has got a glowing personality, love affairs, storytelling. So I didn't get anything intolerant from that. Discrimination, again, I don't get anything from that. I think he's kind of pretentious with educating the working people, but I don't think he discriminates. I don't think D either. I'm leaning towards A. I'd love to know what y'all think. Extremism. Okay, sorry if y'all don't have questions. It's in the context of the passage. The word radicalism means A, extremism, B, intolerance, C, discrimination, or D, fanaticism. So I'm leaning towards A because he seems very extreme. His personality made him famous. His love affairs, his love-hate relationship, his pretentiousness. That's the thing. D, okay, fanaticism. If you're very fanatic, you're very, I want to say it's kind of hard. I'm drawing a blank, but it's like you're kind of obsessed, but you're fanatic about something. I'm fanatic about the Redskins. I'm a big fan of theirs. So I don't think he's fanatic about anything because even with Mexico, which is what this guy's all about, he had a love-hate relationship with it. So yeah, I limited it down to A and D, but I think extremism matches Rivera because I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain that. I just feel like he's kind of extreme. He's got a love-hate relationship with the land of his birth, is what it says. And he's educating people, or trying to. And he has a love-hate relationship, and he has love affairs and storytelling. So I'm going for A. But I had it between A and D, so D might be right. Like I said, I'm doing this with y'all, so I cannot guarantee that I'm going to get 100. I might miss a few questions, but I'm going to try, and I'm going to work it through you, and then we're going to do this together. So, A or D? I'm going with A. Yeah, he was the best no-no of all of them. But it's referencing him, not his fans. So I don't think he would be fanatic about other things or other people. I know he's not fanatic about Mexico because he has a love-hate relationship. Um, I don't see him being fanatic about other people. I see it as more egotistical. So people might be fanatic about him, but I don't think he is fanatic, which is why I'm leaning towards A. So number 7, the author probably mentions wait a minute. Okay, so that's the second guy. The author probably mentions the second guy. It's political cartoons as a way of illustrating. Oh, that's just mean. Okay. So it says when he wasn't painting vast murals, he was drawing political cartoons. And that's all it says about that. So that I would go back and reference. Yes. I talked about that earlier. I don't know if you were here. So if you are in a passage where you don't understand any of it and it's complete jargon, it's over your head, read it to the best of your ability, skim it if you need to, and then enjoy collecting all of your points. Because if you don't understand it, there's a reason you don't understand it. You're not supposed to understand it. It's just the MCAT throwing it in there to shake off your confidence and make you confused and frustrated and to trip you up. And the questions will be very superficial, like the definition of certain words or tone, or very, very, very superficial questions because you're not supposed to understand it. Yeah, I kind of talked about that at the beginning, but I will go more into that in my troubleshooting video, which I'm shooting tonight if I don't pass out. Okay, so number 7, the author probably mentions his political cartoons as a way of illustrating A, the lack of seriousness in his art, B, how multi-talented he was, C, his intertwining of politics and art, and D, why his work fell out of favor. All right, so automatically we can cancel out D because he doesn't say anywhere in there how he fell out of favor. He just says that he wasn't the best known. So we can go ahead and get rid of that. We can also get rid of A. He doesn't talk about lack of seriousness. He talked about the dehumanizing effect of large cities. He doesn't say anything at all about him not being very serious. So we know A and D are out. So I'm between B and C. And I do this a lot. I get between answers. So if y'all get between 2 answers, it's okay. That's how in between I get. Okay. So both of these, yeah. I don't know what the answer is. I'm doing this with y'all. Okay, so both of these are potentially correct, and that's how the MCAT is going to get you. Y'all are all saying C. Yay. Okay, so his intertwining of politics and art. That, I honestly was leaning towards C too, because the fact that I don't think that shows how multi-talented, because cartoons and murals are still art. So that's not really multi-talented. It's art and art. I mean, you wouldn't say that a scientist who does both chemistry and biology is well-rounded. You would say that he does both biology and chemistry. If he did biology and piano or biology and dance, then you'd be like, wow, look how multi-talented he is. He's really good at biology and dance. So I'm leaning towards C for that, and also the fact that it's more, he wasn't drawing cartoons just to draw cartoons. It had politics involved in it. And this is all about political and art, so I'm going with C. Okay, number 8, the authors claim, I love that y'all are answering these with me. This is so much fun. The authors claim that, this is the first guy, the one he loved, might approve of graffiti is supported by. Awesome. Okay. So if we go back to that sentence, and like I said, I usually don't go back, but if we go back to that sentence, what he says is, it began as an outlaw art which surely would have appealed to the outlaw. Okay, it began as an outlaw art which surely would have appealed to an outlaw such as David. So, one, we can eliminate A because there's nothing about his role in the Spanish Civil War. That's not even mentioned in the passage, so get it out. Right? Now I'm getting confused. That's not good. There's a revolution, but it doesn't say Civil War. Oh, it just say he went to Spain to join the anti-fascist forces. His life was at okay. Never mind, you can't cross A out. My bad. Okay, so his description of him as an army captain. No, I'm gonna cross that out. Because it has to graffiti is talking about outlaws. Him being an army captain has nothing to do with him being an outlaw. I'm gonna mark that out. The fact that he moved from Mexico to Spain. I don't know what that has anything to do with graffiti. That what it, no. I think first of all, I want to point something out about this question. So we're talking about the author's claim that he might approve is supported by. So we're looking for evidence, okay? Supported by is evidence. The other thing to notice is the first words in each of the answers is details, description, fact, information. So we're looking for factual information that supports the fact that he would like graffiti. We also know that he would like it because he's an outlaw. So we're looking for anything in the passage that's factual that supports that he was an outlaw. The things that we know are factual that supports he was an outlaw is his activism and lengthy jail terms. And the fact that he joined anti-fascist forces, that he tried to upseat a dictator, and that he did a strike. So we're looking for factual supporting of him being an outlaw. Ignore the graffiti. It's about being an outlaw and factual. Okay? So I would narrow that down to D and A. C, the fact that he moved from Mexico to Spain. The fact that he moved from a different country to a different country has nothing to do with him being an outlaw. B, being an army captain has nothing to do with him being an outlaw. I'm going back to A. And here's why I'm going back to A. And that's why I told you about that sentence. That sentence that I said pay attention to. Some considered him a dangerous gangster. Remember, I said that sentence was important. I knew it was going to be. Some considered him a gangster. The author does not consider him a gangster. The author thinks he's fantastic. He thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread. So, just because some people considered him a gangster does not mean that there is any factual backing to that. Because if there was a fact that he was a gangster, we knew he was a gangster. He sold guns, he sold drugs, he was in the mafia. That would be in here somewhere. But some considered him to be a gangster doesn't mean that he actually was. So, D is not the answer, which is why I crossed out A, but I'm going back to A. Because even though the Spanish Civil War was not mentioned in this article, they talk about him going to Spain to join anti-fascist forces and that he was a soldier. Now, I can be wrong. I could be wrong. It could be D. I'm going between A and D, but honestly, I think D is a pitfall. I think D is one of those answers that the MCAT loves to make you accidentally fall for. And the MCAT will do that for you. Okay, so the MCAT's going to put out answers there that are going to have specific words. So we know that he likes graffiti because he's an outlaw. And then we know that the word gangster was mentioned. So it's easy. It's too easy of an answer. It is easy to say, well, he's going to like graffiti because he's an outlaw. Oh, look, there's the word gangster. Oh, look, there's the word gangster again. That's the answer. And that's going to make you fall because Spanish Civil War wasn't mentioned. And again, I could be wrong, but that's where I'm leaning because right before the people considered him a gangster, which was kind of an odd sentence because he loved him so much. I didn't understand why that sentence was in there, and now I do. He did join Spain to join anti-forces in the 30s. Maybe that was the Spanish Civil War. I'm not liking this passage. If this was a real MCAT passage, they would have put Spanish Civil War in there because that's an outside knowledge. So I'm not liking that. I'm not a big fan of McGraw-Hill. This is probably a bad one to pick the first passage from, but it's practice. And if it's wrong, then it's wrong. But I feel like D is a pitfall answer, so I'm going to go with A. And that might be confusing, but it might be D, it might be A. You know what? Here's what I'm going to do. This is what I do on the actual exam. So it's kind of good that I bring this up. If I have a question that I'm really, really, really stuck between two answers. I mean, really, really stuck. So right here, it's either A or D. If it's a written, I put a question mark next to it. If it's on the exam, I do this little thing called marking the question. There's a little button at the bottom of your computer screen where you can mark a question. And then at the end of the test, you can go back to marked questions. So if I get to the end of the verbal passage, get to the end of the cars section, and I've got 5 minutes, I go back and look at my marked questions. And those are the questions where I was between two answers. And also, on the MCAT, you can mark out answers. So when I'm going through a question, I will mark out answers. I will pick my answer. So I'll be able to go back to number 8 and see, oh, I was between A and D. How do I still feel about it? Oh, I was just pointing out that it means that it's factual. So it's looking for a fact that's supporting it, not a feeling, not a tone. It's not asking what the author feels. He's asking for actual factual support. So what has the most facts? Like for here, and that's why I'm leaning towards A. Because for here, the Spain, you have the 1930s. You have that he went to Spain. You have that he joined the forces. So that's a fact. 30s Spain forces. Whereas the gangster past, you have some considered him a gangster. There's no factual information in there. There's nothing to back that up. Which is why I'm leaning towards A. Because I feel like there's not any facts. If that makes sense. I hope it does. Oh no. Okay. So I'm going to put a question mark on that, and I might come back to it and see how I'm doing. So on the MCAT, you can mark out answers that you know aren't correct. You can mark questions, and you can go back to them at the end of the section if you have time. I always do that. If it's a question like that where I'm really, really, really stuck between two answers, I will mark it so that I can come back to it. The other thing I do, and I wanted to say this real quick because I did this today in my practice exam, and thank God I did. When you get to the end of the section, it will list all your questions. And it'll say review marked, review incomplete. No, review all questions, review marked, review incomplete, end section. If you have more than 30 seconds left on your timer, hit review incomplete. Because there could have been a question where you hit the next button twice and you skipped a question and didn't even realize it was there. So if you hit review incomplete and it pops up you don't have any, then you're good. But like today on my psychology section, I was doing discrete questions and I went too fast and I skipped a question. So by hitting review incomplete at the end of my section, I was able to see, oh hey, on 46 was a question I didn't answer. And even if you've got 30 seconds and all you can do is pick a random answer, it's better than not answering it at all. Yes. I That's why I'm torn. So yes, so the sentence that he would have appealed to it because of an outlaw such as him. Um, but here, this I mean we and the thing is, until we know which answers right, we can go back and forth. This is one of those questions where you can go back and forth. The problem I have with it is a gut feeling because MCAT puts these pitfall answers where they're just too easy. To me, this is just what I got from reading the passage. When he says, which surely would have appealed to an outlaw such as David, I don't think he's referring to him being a gangster. Because he said that some considered him, and it would be one thing if he called him a gangster or even put gangster in a positive light. But he talked about him in such a positive light, and then put some considered him a dangerous, subversive gangster. So those are very negative terms, dangerous, subversive, which doesn't match up with anything he said about him being an activist and unseating a dictator, and he had beautiful artwork and finest artworks, and all these positive things that he said about him. He wouldn't have called him a dangerous, subversive gangster. So when I think of the authors calling him an outlaw, I think of him because he was resisting. He contributed to the revolution because he was doing strikes, because he was doing activism that sent him to jail. So I'm considering his outlaw activities as positive things that he did for his country that the government disagree with. I mean, if he were to unseat the dictator, then obviously the dictator is going to consider him an outlaw because he was revolting against him. But he makes it out like that was a good thing. He was doing the right thing. He was supporting workers. It was a positive thing that he was doing. So I don't take his being an outlaw as a dangerous gangster. I'm taking his outlaw as being a military, anti-government person. Does that make sense? So if they had a question like in the context of this passage, the word outlaw means, I would not pick a dangerous gangster. I would pick a anti-government, political, positive person. Okay. That's how I'm interpreting it. Again, I could be wrong. That would be really sucky for me to like. But see, here's the thing too. And I mean, hopefully I'm not wrong. But here's the thing. You should be able to fight for your answer. So I'm glad that you sent me that. And I'm glad that you made me fight for my answer. If you should, when you pick an answer, you shouldn't be like, oh, that sounds right. It's, sure. You should be able to fight for it. You should say, here's why my answer is right. Here's why I can prove it. I can give you passage, sentences, and I can prove that answer. And that's how you should approach your answers. You should be able to fight and prove it. And I mean, you're not going to be able to do that for every answer and every question, but you should be able to try. Instead of just, well, that sounds right. You should, and I mean, you can fight for the wrong answer. I mean, ask my parents. Last time I was at their house, I did a verbal passage, and I swore up and down that my answer was right. And it wasn't, and it made me so mad because I could fight for it. And the funny thing was, I don't even remember what book it was. I'll have to look. I think it was The Next Steps. My answer, and it was a pitfall. It was a pitfall because my answer was directly put in the passage, like word for word, directly from the passage. But the question asked, the author implies. So I saw the answer, knew that it was in the passage because I had read it, I remembered it, I could even look it up and point to it, which is what I did when I got the question wrong, and I was so mad because I was like, it's right there. It's literally right there in the passage. But the question stem was, the author implies, not the author states. So because that one little word, my answer was wrong and a different answer was right. But that's a pitfall because you're reading really quickly, you're stressed out, you've got an adrenaline rush going, and you see that answer and you know it's in the passage. You see the word gangster, gangster's in the passage. and you go for it, and then the MCAT says, nope, you weren't paying attention. So, yes, it is so annoying. But that's the MCAT, and that's the thing, like the hard passages that mess with your confidence, the MCAT tries to trip you up. And that's why if you go into it armed with the techniques and the skill and the confidence, and you can go in there calm and be like, I got this, I know how to do this, you're going to defeat all of their tactics and their tricks. The trickiness drives me nuts. I wish they would just flat out ask information, but they don't. They have to be tricky and mean. Okay, so I'm going to go with A for now. And again, I would mark that question, and if I had time, I'd come back to it, but I'm really leaning towards A. So for number 9, according to this passage, graffiti would best be described as. Okay. So we've already determined that he's pro-graffiti. So anything negative on here, pale imitation of Mexican muralist work, B, gone. A nuisance that must be tolerated, for C, gone. D, a way to educate the masses in their own history. Yeah, no. That was something he said about Rivera that wasn't a good thing. So now I'm going with thinking A. That's what I'm leaning towards. An attractive way of making a political statement. That's what I'm leaning towards. I think if I were to narrow it down to 2, I would say A or B. Those would be my 2 that I narrow it down to. But I really feel like A is better because it's more positive, and he's talking about how it can be used for political statements. I don't see anything in here where he talks about it as a pale intimation. I mean, he says that some of them manage to create something beautiful while making political statements. So I'm going with A. Why B? C and D I can 100% say no to. B I can't 100%. It is negative, but he was very positive about the muralist work, so he might be more positive about them than graffiti. That's why that is my maybe, but I'm still, A is very strong. Exactly. That's right. It's evolved. I agree with you, Victoria. 100%. I agree. And plus, that answer is just very negative, and there's nothing about this passage is negative about graffiti. I mean, he does talk about how some people thought it was a nuisance, but other than that, it's very positive. Okay, so we're all on A. Yay! All right, last question. In number 10, in 1933, Diego, so this is the famous one that he doesn't like, was dismissed from his job painting a mural for the Rockefeller Center and charged with willful propaganda for including a portrait of Lenin in the center. How does this anecdote affect the author's contention that his goal was to educate the workers in their own history? Okay. I don't like this question. I feel like this has some background information. I don't like McGraw-Hill. Not a fan of this question. I feel like this implies some outside knowledge because you've got Lenin and you got Rockefeller Center. And I don't like that because verbal is not supposed to have any cars. Sorry, I still call it verbal. Should not have outside knowledge at all. At all. Which is my issue with number 8. So, what are you guys thinking for this one? B. It supports it. All right, we got a B and we got a C.